In a world where shock value is the driving force behind reality TV, yesterday night offered a moment that no one could have anticipated. Rumors turned into roars on social media when they claimed to have been caught in a heated argument with Evelyn, who is known for having a severe temper and not tolerating treachery. The cause, a mutual lover, a heated evening that supporters claim has already been dissected frame by frame, and not just any meeting. We're not saying this is accurate, but the volume of the noise is deafening. Those who watched the live events reported seeing Ty's demeanor suddenly change. The clamor was broken by her voice demanding answers. Evelyn's calm, almost haughty behavior only served to fan the flames. The atmosphere was tight, with all the cameras in the room trained on the two ladies standing inches apart, ready to explode. Within seconds, social media was ablaze with followers who were reacting in a variety of ways, from outrage to disbelief. Was the ultimate betrayal caught in the act? Or was there a misunderstanding here? Either way, it created the conditions for one of the most turbulent nights in the history of this show and its audience. The place was buzzing even before Ty walked in. But when she did, a shift in the air was almost tangible. She appeared to catch the attention of every eye in the room. Each whispered conversation stopped suddenly. Others later said that you could feel the heat emanating from her in addition to the surprise, as if she had a storm of emotions building within her chest that was about to explode. After looking around the room, she focused on Evelyn, who was relaxing. One leg crossed over the other at the far end of the sofa. Not even the faintest hint of a smile could be seen on her face. Rumors had been going around since the night before, but nobody expected things to get out of hand. The supposed sexual meeting he had had with Evelyn a few days before was the real gasoline for the fire, but the subject of conversation rapidly shifted to a guy with whom both ladies had some kind of contact. The producers were enthralled, but others who watched the live tape claimed to have seen enough body language to know that something was happening. As the camera zoomed in and the microphone stayed hot, the tension rose like a drumbeat. There was no stopping. Ty didn't spend any time. She crossed the room methodically. With measured steps, her heels pounded the floor in a perfect beat. But with a glass-cutting edge, she responded firmly. Evelyn, do you have anything you'd want to say to me? Evelyn's eyelids slowly lifted and she shrugged, a gesture that could have infuriated an already tense person. The room was silent, even the backdrop of the crew members. It depends, Evelyn said in a painfully calm voice. Are we talking about your version of events or the truth? Her voice lowered so that only the front row and the microphones could hear it, and Ty's eyes narrowed as she approached. Do you really think I had no idea where you were 2 nights ago? The crowd echoed with gasps, and some in the back choked back, laughing, not because they were laughing, but because they were so shocked by Evelyn's boldness. Do you think I am? Have you not heard of what happened? Evelyn did not flinch. People have always spoken about Ty, but you should know better than to believe every rumor. One of the cast members shifted uncomfortably in their seat, clearly undecided about whether to stay or intervene. Chantel finally leaned forward, her eyes wide, after silently watching the entire event with wide eyes. Maybe we should, she said. But Ty cut her off with a raised hand. No, Ty said, her voice rising. This will not be disregarded under Theog. You sat there with him in public, and you knew exactly how this would look. You did it even though you knew what others would say. The live audience was enthralled. The collective could almost be heard. Breathe. I'm awaiting Evelyn's reply. She put her knees on her elbows and leaning slightly forward. We've played this game long enough for you and I to know that nothing lasts. If we're being honest, Ty, it's private. If you were paying him a bit more attention, maybe he wouldn't have been looking for company elsewhere. Ty's reaction was immediate, and the line was slap-like. Her voice raised to a near screech as the words came out more quickly than even she had anticipated. She got so close that there wasn't much space between them. You want to hold me responsible for your decisions and actions? She inquired, while a manufacturing worker shifted nervously just off frame, clearly ready to step in if things went out of control. Online viewers argued that this was the pivotal moment a moment later. The chat area on the live feed blew up. Some supporters lash out, while others take sides. Evelyn's composure has been called the ultimate power move by some. As spectators posted slow-motion replays and footage of the two women's subtle facial expressions throughout the presentation, hashtags began to gain traction. But it seemed like the stakes were higher in Theorium than they were in online debate. This was more than just a man, having to do with verbal disputes and history that had been accumulating for a few months. Those familiar with the situation say that although this was not their first confrontation, it was the most extensively publicized. The treachery compelled every member of the cast to choose a side. In spite of everything, whether real or imagined, Evelyn maintained her composure. "Ty," she muttered, her voice almost too soft for the microphones. "You're letting Ty laugh, but not in a playful way." They triumph. "Your life is being controlled by the voices. All of this would be irrelevant if you really believed in him and in yourself." It was sharp and sour, reverberating off the studio walls. In this case, try not to come off as a victim. You knew precisely what you were doing that night. Then, from the other side of the room, there came a whisper concerning images. Then Ty's head turned. "Pictures. Which images?" she demanded. The room fell into a thick stillness, the type that makes your skin tingle. Evelyn's eyes darted for the first time, and it was enough to tell Ty that the story was more complicated than she had previously realized. The two ladies in the center of the pandemonium came into closer focus on the cameras as the producers looked at each other, aware that the drama was just beginning. For a moment, time appeared to halt. Everybody and everyone in the room is holding their breath, waiting for the next revelation to demolish whatever was left of the fragile. Her gaze was impenetrable as she stared at Evelyn, looking for any sign of remorse on her face, similar to that of a poker player who has played for too long to provide any information. As the query lingered in the air like a storm cloud about to explode, calm Ty single quotes were used. She was still reassured that she wasn't dreaming by the little flash knot she had earlier seen. Evelyn didn't want anybody to know about this, even herself. Chantel squirmed uncomfortably in her chair and stared straight at the cameras before anybody could comment. It was becoming clear how raw and unfiltered this moment was. Maybe this isn't when she began. But Ty cut in suddenly, her voice shaking with controlled rage. "No, Sean said that now is the appropriate time. Will I wait till the cameras are off, in your opinion?" "You think so?" "I'm going to let her go without describing what really happened." The crowd complained restlessly as if a revelation were imminent. Ty took a step in Evelyn's direction, before her remarks faded into a dangerous stillness. "What images are they talking about, Evelyn? Because you ought not to have been with him anywhere. I won't hold back if I find out and there is proof." Evelyn narrowed her gaze slightly. It was a subliminal warning, but it was too late. Sumian's voice could be heard well from the far corner by the microphones. "They're talking about the pictures that were shot on the roof." The words appeared to resonate, and everyone's attention suddenly shifted in unison. The voice caused Ty's head to jolt toward it. "Images taken from the roof. Which pictures of rooftops?" She was adamant. Her tone was so severe that even the workmen froze. One of the makeup artists, who had clearly been trying to dodge it, was enough recorded on camera. To spark more questions, the drama whispered to someone beside her. He arrived late beside her. Champagne's expression was one of incredulity and anger. Ty faced Evelyn once again. "Don't say that to me. Tell me you weren't with him on that rooftop." Evelyn finally shifted in her seat. Her voice was harsh yet quiet. She also uncrossed her legs and leaned forward. "You're acting like you own him, as if he were yours. He really makes his own choices, which is why he loses. And maybe you should ask him why he chose to spend the night with me." While several grabbed their phones and started frantically messaging friends and followers about what was occurring, the combined cry of the crowd was deafening. "Live in their presence." Shaking Ty's voice rose as someone in the back said, "Oh, she went there." Now, Dot is angry and wounded at the same time. "Would you want to talk about your options? What about loyalty? What about some decency? You've known me for years and years, Evelyn, and you think this is okay. Don't act as if you are innocent." With a somewhat less calm voice than previously, Evelyn snapped back. "You have experience tying knots. You've overreached yourselves. The difference is that when I'm caught, I don't pretend to be the victim. The tension between them was so great that it seemed to have pulled out the air in the room. I tried to step in and position myself in the center of the gap between them, but Ty rushed right past her, totally enclosing the area. A dot. As he carved behind my back, Ty snarled, "You seem to assume that I'll simply sit here and take it when you've been smiling in my face." As Evelyn stood there with the two ladies almost face to face, their voices overlapping in intense outbursts, she remarked, "Well, Ty, I'm not sneaking around. You have no power over how I live my life. It's what you call living your life. I refer to it as treachery." Ty's voice, full of disbelief, was repeated. With admirers scrutinizing every word, every glance, and every minute shift in body language, the audience absorbed every syllable. Comments flooded the internet discussion area, with some praising Ty and others applauding Evelyn's unrepentant stance. Already, hashtags were popular. The real Ty Dot, however, was taken aback when a production worker approached with a tablet, clearly trying to quell the commotion. They whispered to her, "You should see this." Ty took the tablet and glanced at the screen, and whatever she saw made her lips part in stillness. A moment of amazement. Gasps were heard once again when she swung the screen to the crowd. Evelyn and the guy in question were seen on a dark rooftop in the grainy but recognizable picture. Their faces were too close together to be misconstrued for innocence at that time, and they held champagne flutes. Just like that, Chase said. "You wanted proof. There it is." Evelyn didn't even blink. She said, "So what? But it doesn't alter the fact that he's not your property, and you were more than happy to give him the freedom to be with whatever he wanted." Ty spat back. The audience knew they were watching something unravel, and even Evelyn's confident fight seemed to falter for a moment. But she stood her ground, her gaze fixed on Ty as if daring her to say more. The producers, realizing that the drama was getting to its climax, did not move to cut away, instead keeping the cameras fixed on their faces, capturing every glimmer of "You've made your choice, Evelyn. Now live with it," because Ty's hands clenched into fists at her sides. But instead, she took a step back. Her voice suddenly quieter but no less furious. The room was already tense, and when Ty took a single step toward Evelyn, her eyes locked on arrival like nothing had ever happened before. This was not just a fight over a man. It was about pride, long-standing resentment, and years of history boiling over in one explosive confrontation that neither woman could leave unchanged. The crowd realized that something seismic was about, and two erupts fell hushed, holding their breath in anticipation. The lover in question. Marcus stood a few feet back, shifting uneasily as if every second in that spotlight was another nail in his coffin. Ty's voice, low and calm at first, broke through the collision of pride, treachery, and a history of grudges that had never really been settled. This was no longer just about a boyfriend. It had become personal. She could burn a hole right through her, find out what Ty is connected to me. She's not even denying it, and it only fueled the fire. The crowd gasped at her audacity, and several phones raised higher to record every second. Someone in the back muttered loudly enough for cameras to record, and Ty took another step forward. "Out?" she asked in a tone full of incredulity. Evelyn smirked and cocked her head slightly, her poise almost inciting greater rage. Marcus tried to step in, his hands raised like a referee between boxers. "No, Marcus told me you were dramatic." Ty gently pushed him away, saying, "Don't." "You call spending the night in his hotel room," she replied, her voice growing between them, almost crackling. "Not at this moment." She cautioned fans would then slow down the video to see the exact moment when Ty's expression changed from controlled rage to something much more deadly as the insult struck hard and caused his face to flush. Finally, attention security, who had been creeping closer for minutes, moved in as Ty lunged forward with a forceful shove to Evelyn's shoulder instead of a full swing, sending her reeling back a step. And her quiet, almost mocking chuckle caused Ty's jaw to tighten. He wasn't giving, in my opinion. Give yourself adequate credit. But Evelyn quickly regained her footing and stepped back into Ty's space, and the two now towed to the side as the chamber exploded into commotion. Chantel came out staring at Marcus, who was now standing still with a pale face, and her expression was a mix of astonishment and something else. She muttered to him, either in fear or satisfaction, "You need to fix this," but her words were drowned out by the shouting match between Ty and Evelyn. "You're a liar," Ty screamed, her voice trembling a little, "because you've been moving stealthily and grinning in my face. You as well as behind my back. Please don't let anything happen," she begged, gesturing at Marcus. "You allowed it to happen." Marcus started to stammer something about misunderstandings, but Evelyn cut him off, saying, "You've been too busy playing code to notice when someone else is paying attention to him, so he came to me." From the far corner, Ty's shoulders rose and fell with each breath. Her hands curled into fists at her sides, and Jackie moved forward after keeping a cautious distance, trying to break through the chaos with her voice. "Don't do that here, Ty Dot. It's not the right time or location." That line shook the audience. like adding gasoline to an already blazing fire, to suggest that Marcus had turned to Evelyn's company for solace because Ty wasn't there for him. But Ty wasn't listening. "Oh, that's the exact moment and location," she shot back. "Let everyone see her true snake nature." Security finally managed to position themselves between the two women, but neither seemed willing to make concessions. Evelyn spoke calmly and solemnly as she leaned over the guard's shoulder. "Maybe you wouldn't be in this situation if you had treated him well." The room erupted again with audience shouts, lightning-fast camera flashes, and the hum of the live broadcast. The ferocious and immediate divide spread to every platform within minutes. Marcus finally tried to speak as the yelling subsided enough for voices to be heard again. "You two stop. You're aggravating the situation." Some supporters demanded that Evelyn be taken off immediately. A startling number of people were defending Ty's response, while others were pressing Marcus to provide explanations of taunts from Ty, who said that Evelyn had singled her out to get attention. Evelyn did not deny it. Instead, she simply shrugged, which at the time may have been more anger than a true response. Jackie's eyes widened when Chantel whispered something into her ear, which was caught on camera in a telling moment. Whatever was said, it made the already complex situation even more complicated, because Jackie's next move was to yank Marcus away and speak to him in a voice so low that he couldn't hear. Mike Gotti saw immediately. She pointed to the three of them and said, "You have your little that council over there, preparing for your next deception." The optics were poor, but Marcus shook his head. She stood across the room, still in shock over the betrayal. When the producers realized they were sitting on gold, they released it. Without attempting to divert attention or cut to commercial, they knew that every moment of this was pure drama, and they knew that the replay value would be enormous. Now, because the tension was so high, even those who were not directly involved seemed to move too quickly, as if a single movement might trigger another explosion. Evelyn then made her final statement of the evening at just the right time, soft enough to be subtle, but deadly enough to cut through the noise. "Maybe you should ask him where he was." The night before, it had an immediate effect. When Ty realized, she stopped, her brow furrowing. The audience as a whole pushed forward, awaiting the next revelation. The space seemed to shrink around them as Marcus's eyes swerved away, unwilling to meet hers. The air is thicker, the lights are harsher, and the truth, or whatever it was that was going to come to light, hung just out of reach. The night before last, Ty's breath caught in her chest as Evelyn's words replayed in her mind. The statement knotted her nerves as she silently repeated it. Her mind immediately went through the way Marcus's phone had been conveniently on, the quiet, his evasive reasons, and his late-night text about taking care of business. At the time, she had dismissed it, telling herself that being paranoid would only make him turn away. But now that Evelyn's eyes were on hers like a predator enjoying the hunt, every last shred of doubt she had pushed back and forth came rushing back. What is she talking about? Each sentence in Ty's low, piercing voice sliced through the tense atmosphere. Aka got up and rubbed the back of his neck in a way that made everyone who saw it see his guilt. "Don't do this here, Ka," he said in a rising voice, and she repeated, "Don't do this here. Is this something you've been doing behind my back?" "So I think this is exactly where we do it," the crowd murmured. "I was with a friend, nothing more, a friend." A Ty laughed without humor. A Ty laughed without humor, like the friend who is currently standing next to you after she jerked her chin in Evelyn's direction. And phones angled forward, capturing every detail as Evelyn stood with her, arms crossed and a small smile on her face. Marcus tried to control his tone as he tugged at her lips, clearly enjoying the chaos she had caused. "Marcus, if you have nothing to hide, just say where you were," Jackie added abruptly as the crowd burst into half-excited cries and half-screams, adding to the frenetic mood. Marcus recoiled at the directness of her question, which was just the confirmation Ty needed. "Wow," Ty murmured, her voice trembling, not from weakness, but from the tremendous effort it was taking to contain her screams. "You didn't even pause the grace to lie quickly enough," Ty added. Evelyn tilted her head, continuing to stare at Ty. "You want to hear it from me?" "All right, he was with someone else that night instead of me." "Kay, she's also closer than you think." The words landed like a grenade in the center of the room, and there were whispers, heads turning, and cameras focusing on Ty's face as she looked from person to person, trying to read the truth. Chantel, who had been silent up until this point, stepped forward. "Evelyn, you don't have to play this game. Just say the name, Evelyn said. Marcus's jaw tensed as I made sure Ty understood the kind of man she was defending. Evelyn, you're manipulating this, am I? She fired back. Or are you just angry that the truth is now coming to light after being concealed for so long? The stress was unbearable. Her voice was really calm. I'm not here to keep her safe. Find out who Evelyn might be talking about. She thought of friends, family, coworkers, and other people. Her stomach lurched at the thought that someone she trusted might be involved. Then, a voice from the other side of the room broke the silence. She might be talking about me. Everyone turned when Renee's longtime friend stepped forward, her face unreadable. Ty's heart dropped to her stomach. Her voice was barely audible above a whisper. Renee, she murmured. And after a long period of silence during which the crowd started whispering behind her, she added, we didn't prepare for it. It occurred just now. The words set off a chain of events that included screams, gasps, and phones going back to recording mode. Ty's face became white and her lips opened, but she didn't make a sound. Marcus reached out to her, but as if his touch were burning, she stepped back. You, Ty whispered, her voice cracking. I apologize, Renee added quickly. But you were. You held my baby last week at my residence. Ty, you were seated at my table. Her eyes sparkled almost contentedly, but the audience's loudness made the words seem empty. Evelyn stood back and watched the event unfold. Jackie stepped in since she was aware that had prepared the perfect surprise. The damage had been done, even with attempts to defuse the situation. Her words, this is leaving hand. You came into my life like a sister, but no one was listening anymore. Ty was locked on Renee, every ounce of her betrayal radiating through her trembling frame. Ty's voice was low but deadly, and she gestured toward Marcus with unsteady fists. Marcus started to apologize, but he was unable to do so at that moment. You allowed it to occur. Instead, she began to leave, but stopped at the door. Her voice cut through the confusion. Keep out of my life. You too. The audience had become more than just spectators. They witnessed an implosion in real time. Every camera lens and I were focused on Ty, waiting for her next tantrum or breakdown. As well as you, she replied, glancing at Evelyn. You'd best hope we never cross paths again. As she disappeared on stage, the room's noise level skyrocketed. Pitch, leaving Renee, Evelyn, and Marcus to stand amid the wreckage of the earlier event. The truth hung thick in the air, with no chance of ever being buried again. That's it. What started off as a fun-filled evening turned into one of the most dramatic reality TV scenarios we've ever seen. It begins Evelyn's calculated revelation and concludes with a shocking admission. Clearly, connections that we consider to be unbreakable have been shattered in front of millions of people. Since Ty departed with her dignity, fan reactions are already taking over social media. A number of people called her a queen. There were some who wondered why Evelyn had initiated the fight in the first place. Others accused Marcus of publicly betraying her trust. Was this all about getting even with the repercussions? Or was she trying to protect Ty? It's not quite over yet. Friendships have ended. Relationships are in ruins, and questions have been raised about who knew what and when. Will Ty bounce back stronger than before? Or will this betrayal leave scars that are too deep to mend? Will Renee or Marcus ever get the criticism they deserve? Or will the drama just be ignored till the next controversy occurs? Would you want to express your opinions? Did Evelyn go too far by disclosing everything in public? Or do you believe she was right to tell the truth? Please feel free to express your thoughts in the box below for comments. Remember to like this video if you were as shocked as we were. You make sure you don't miss another amazing moment like this one. The stories we're hearing are true, so hit the alert button and subscribe to the channel. This storm is just the beginning of something far bigger. The temperament best.